Recently, there have been major protests in China for the first time in a long time over COVID restrictions and even calling for freedom. What do you think of these protests, Lev?
It's definitely a very novel moment in the sense that we haven't seen protests like this in quite some time at this scale, and that are this widespread throughout China. I think there's a lot of eagerness to make a prediction about what this means for the future of the PRC or Xi Jinping, and I think it's too early to tell. I think we often forget that the PRC is a very large authoritarian leviathan that is built to respond to these types of events. We're going to see a lot more crackdown on protesters much sooner than we're going to see any sort of hint at regime change.
And do you think that this could have a potential impact on Taiwan?
I would be curious to see how long these protests last, but because they're happening after the local election, I think there's really no way to try to make them an electoral issue. If these were happening during, say the 2024 elections, I think it would be a much more interesting conversation. But I'm very curious to see, which media in Taiwan picks up the story and how they discuss it.
Some people would say that if China is having inner turmoil, they may turn outward to instill nationalism, may attack Taiwan. It's more dangerous for Taiwan when things are going bad domestically in China. What do you think about that line of reasoning?
And I'm sympathetic to the idea, but I think that would really be only if there is a true domestic crisis. And I think protests happening for a few days is not a crisis domestically. Again, I think it's really a matter of seeing how these protests develop, if they grow, or if this is, letting off steam from civil society, and in a week or two, things go back to normal.